Welcome to my channel. This is the Diamond Chrysalis, aka Divested Diamonds. This is divestment with purpose, and you have arrived.
10 things women should know about us men. What one man won't do for you, I can promise you another man will. He's going to cheat if he wants to. It's never your fault. You don't need to accept when we say to you, this is just how I am. We will treat you how we feel about you. When we show you how we feel about you, you better believe that's how we feel about you. Us men will do anything for the woman we want to be with. You shouldn't have to tell us grown-ass men how to love you. If we love you the way we claim we do, our actions should show it. You don't need to give us second chances. Us men are fully aware of our actions. Baby girl, you are not asking too much. You are just asking the wrong man.
Hello, ladies. Thank you so much for joining me. Thanks for being here today. Please do me a favor and click the like button as you watch this video. Thank you kindly. In today's premiere, we'll be discussing hypergamy. I think I heard a modern man gasp. Oh, they're talking hypergamy. Oh no, these gold diggers. Yes. Contrary to what the broke brigade have to say, hypergamy is good. And it benefits women in marriages as well as dating in a positive way. Stop listening to these males on these misogynistic podcasts telling women to go 50-50 and preaching to women how they need to lower their standards because whatever they've set forth is too high. Too high for whom? Don't be mad because you can't afford the privilege of female companionship. You shouldn't be dating while broke anyway. And pay attention to those who have a lot to say in regards to this conversation. It's usually broke, dusty males who have nothing to offer, or the internet wannabes who portray themselves as rich when in actuality, they're not. My advice to any Black woman wishing to wet her feet into the dating game is to set solid standards, okay? Realistic standards that are non-negotiable in a potential relationship and stick to them. These standards must be based on the quality of person that you want in your life. Things that they should already have prior to being in a relationship with you. Obviously, this will depend on your age because our needs change depending on what stage you are in life. However, because we're practicing hypergamy, there are certain universal things that we must all look for in a man. But before we get into that, let's define hypergamy. According to Merriam-Webster, the meaning of hypergamy is marriage into an equal or higher caste or social group. To put it quite simply, marrying up. The Collins Dictionary actually takes it one step further and defines hypergamy as a custom that forbids a woman to marry a man of lower social status. It couldn't be any clearer than that. Being hypergamous is something that's been going on for centuries. Women are naturally hypergamous because we live in societies that are led by men. Men, by nature, are bigger and stronger than women. Obviously, there are exceptions. Not all men fit the bill, but generally speaking, that's the case majority of the time. As such, nature has designated men to be protectors while society has set them up as providers. Men have placed themselves on top of the hierarchy, and so when it comes to relationships, no woman wants to reach down the bottom of the barrel for a man unless she's desperate. As women, we're much more agreeable, right? Much more malleable than men are. It's easier for men to talk you into dating down because it benefits them. And for the most part, we tend to be more understanding and empathetic to the situations of others, which unfortunately keeps us at a disadvantage. While we're being nice and getting hypnotized by some of these men's sob stories as to why they haven't made it in life, we run the risk of opening ourselves up to stress, poverty, and dusty peen, accepting and entertaining hypogamous men. Hypogamy, obviously, is the opposite of hypergamy. According to Merriam-Webster, it's been defined as marriage into a lower caste, class, or social group. In any thriving society, nothing good comes from entertaining bottom-tier men, especially if you are a high-earning woman, because it adds to the laziness of those men. When you constantly accommodate men who are below your station in life, they stand to gain while you keep losing because it takes away from the natural dynamics of men and women in relationships. It is indeed a fact that when humans are given a sense of security, something to fall back on, when they are supposed to be working on themselves and elevating, they will normally put those things on hold, especially when there's a lack of urgency for what they're supposed to be doing. My thing is, if you're doing all the work in your relationship or marriage, as a woman, you chose wrong. It's also a fact that men are much more codependent in relationships than they would ever like to admit. A perfect example for this are the male and female dynamics in the so-called Black community. Everything is completely lopsided because there are far more educated Black women than there are educated Black men. Unfortunately, these women are constantly digging the bottom of the barrel, looking for men and entertaining men who are not on their level. And you can clearly see the consequences of doing such because most Black women who are coerced into helping a brother out end up doing the bulk of the work in those relationships, which results in a cycle of misery and poverty, especially when finances aren't being managed as well as they should be. And that is why the so-called community is run by women and not men. This dynamic has not helped Black women at all. Educated Black women who only focus on having relationships with Black men usually date or marry down because they have been bamboozled into believing it's their responsibility to keep, quote unquote, the race going. The truth of the matter is, Black women do not owe the so-called community any of that. The fact is, there are plenty of Black women who believe their only mate should be a Black man and no one else. And that's fine, as long as they understand the consequences of engaging in such relationships. Listen, if they like it, I love it. The reason that this dynamic would never work for hypergamous women who understand there are many options is that, unlike other groups of women who are into Black everything, most hypergamous Black women got the memo on expanding one's dating options to increase their chances of marriage and hypergamy. Having options means you have more of a chance at finding the man you desire. By giving other races of men a chance, you increase your ability to practice hypergamy because Most cultures socialize their men to be protectors and providers without calling them weak or simps. Unfortunately, in today's world, the incel community, aka the manosphere, as well as the pick-me community, have made it a cardinal sin of sorts for a woman to expect or want the bare minimum out of relationships. There's huge emphasis on women lowering their standards and taking scraps from unworthy men so as to not exclude them from what top-tier men enjoy on a regular basis. So, what must a woman do in order to stick to her guns and hold her standards in a hypergamous relationship? Well, let's talk about 5 important points to consider as a hypergamous woman before seriously embarking on this type of relationship. Number 1, kindness and likability factor. Is the man you're getting to know or hoping to get married to a good person? Is he kind to you? And would he go above and beyond for you? Does he treat you with respect? Number 2, morals and character. Does he have good moral values? Does he have good moral standing and character? Is he honorable? Do you align morally? Are you on the same page when it comes to moral values? Number 3, generosity. Is he generous? Does he treat you to material things? Is he spontaneous with birthdays, trips, shopping sprees, vacations, etc.? Does he treat you like his goddess? Does he spoil you? Does he make sure that you have everything you need financially? Number 4, love language and communication. Does he understand your love language and respect your boundaries? How's your communication, and does it align with his? In order to have great communication, he needs to be a great listener too. How does that work out for both of you? Number 5, arguments. Every relationship will go through this at some point or another. How well does he do with conflict resolution? How does he rate on the anger scale? Have you ever seen him angry? If the answer is yes, how quickly were you able to resolve your issues? Would he ever, at any given time, put his hands on you? Again, this goes back to his character. Is he the type to throw anything he does for you in your face? You see, while hypergamy is normally advised for most women, the following aspect is usually the final nail in the coffin if you miss the mark and fall for the wrong person. This is where it gets tricky. Some men will use the fact that they are taking care of you financially to put you down. If a man ever says to you during a heated argument how you are nothing without him, or makes snide little remarks every time he spends money on you, that's a red flag. A true provider will never throw his finances or the fact that he's taking care of you in your face. A true provider will never use his finances as a way to control you and throw it back in your face. This is why vetting is very important. And one way to avoid this is by dating them first, thoroughly, and try not to be mesmerized by all the glitter. Recently, we all saw what happened between soccer player Achraf Hakimi and his soon-to-be ex-wife, Hiba Abouk, when she filed for divorce. People were all over the internet clowning this woman while praising Achraf for a job well done. The story of their pending divorce went viral after Hiba allegedly asked for half in the divorce settlement, only to find out through her lawyers that her soon-to-be ex-husband had transferred his funds into his mother's name. I saw a few articles on this and went directly to the comment section, and most trolls had similar things to say. They said it was wonderful news, that she deserved what she got. This should be a warning to modern women. She was a gold digger. She shouldn't have taken advantage of him because she's too old for him anyway. It was brutal. There were those who criticized her sense of style and choice of clothing. They questioned why, as a wife of a Muslim man, was she not wearing a hijab? The main issue a lot of people had, mostly men and some women, was that she married him for money, and the fact that this was an age gap relationship with her being 12 years his senior. Now, I had to do a little digging to find out more about her because the way she was being disrespected on the internet, you would have thought she was this good-for-nothing succubus who took advantage of this poor innocent man. As always, it turned out to be some BS because, quite frankly, she's out of his league. Contrary to popular belief, she's the one who married down. Now, before you come for me, please hear me out, okay? She's not a nobody. She's an actress in her home country of Spain. She was born in Madrid and is of Tunisian and Libyan descent. Her parents moved to Spain from Tunisia. She is currently 36 years of age. She's educated. She speaks Spanish, Arabic, French, and Italian. Those are wonderful skills to have that have the ability to take you further in life. She's a very well-rounded woman. This is not some groupie who walked off the street and targeted Achraf simply for his money. Her acting career took off in 2010 and has featured in 6 movies and in television series. She's also considered one of the most famous Spanish Tunisian actresses in the world. Look, I don't know how many there are, but that's her position right now. She's sitting pretty. Plus, she's a beautiful woman. So, for those who've been constantly trying to infantilize this man by painting him as a victim for choosing to marry an older woman, stop it. A lot of you never bat an eyelid when you have these predatory men marrying child brides. If she were a man, people would be high-fiving her because everything's shrouded in quote-unquote culture when it comes to men. But I digress. As far as Achraf Hakimi is concerned, sure, he's very young. Too young to be married, in my opinion. And it's not solely because of his age, but because of his level of maturity as well. It's not a secret that women are much more mentally mature at a younger age than men are. Listen, if you believe any of these articles on the internet and the studies that have actually been done, it says that men do not mature until the age of 43, 11 years after women. Most women will attest to that. Anyway, let's take a look at the man she got married to, shall we? Achraf Hakimi is 24 years of age. He was born in Madrid, Spain, to Moroccan parents. So Achraf is a successful soccer player. He became a national hero in his home country of Morocco in 2022 when he scored the winning penalty against Spain in the 2022 FIFA World Cup, bringing his country to the quarterfinals for the first time in history. So, as far as they're concerned, this is their golden boy. As far as his career is concerned, he's very well loved. So, it's not surprising the stance that a lot of people are taking in attacking this poor woman and elevating him, despite the fact that their quote-unquote golden boy is not perfect. So anyway, how did these two meet? According to various publications, they met in 2018 and got married 2 years later. They met at a photo shoot for Vogue Arabia while he was playing for Real Madrid. They went public at a charity event in June of 2019 and made their relationship official on Instagram 2 months later. As I mentioned just a couple of minutes ago, in October of 2022, Hiba and Hakimi both graced the cover of Vogue Arabia. They have 2 children from their short-lived marriage. Their first child was born in 2020 and the other was born in 2022. So, while people have been celebrating the demise of their marriage and thinking it's some kind of victory for modern men to financially abuse their wives, we have to take into consideration the fact that Hakimi hasn't been the perfect husband in this situation, according to reports. And his move to try and leave his wife with nothing financially showcases his lack of maturity. A lot of times when women file for divorce, it's usually because there's something irretrievably broken or wrong within the marriage itself, and they can't put up with it any longer. As far as their marriage is concerned, we can only give our opinions as outsiders. Only they know what truly happened. However, there's an incident that took place between Hakimi and a woman in France that brings his character into question. This is why it's very important, ladies, to know exactly who it is that you're getting married to. According to a source, and I got this information from Post Sport, I'll post the link in the description bar below for those who are interested in reading further. Hakimi had been quite busy on social media, entertaining other women, it seems. On January 16th, he came into contact with a woman on Instagram. On the night of Saturday, February 25th, the young woman reportedly went to the player's home in Boulogne, a wealthy and prestigious commune in the western suburbs of Paris. She took an Uber, which was allegedly paid for by Hakimi himself. According to the young woman, things got out of hand in Hakimi's home. He allegedly kissed her on the mouth, lifted her clothes, and kissed her breasts despite her refusal. The woman also claims that Hakimi committed digital penetration despite her protests again. Now, some might say, well, what did she think would happen? She went to his place willingly and voluntarily. And this is what you need to pay attention to. Most men lie. Who knows? Okay? Who knows what the heck he had told her regarding his relationship status? In any case, no means no. The victim finally managed to free herself from the footballer by pushing him away with her foot. And when she was released, she then allegedly sent a text message to a friend who came to pick her up. So much for husband of the year, huh? Now, I know that these are allegations, but we can all use discernment, can we not? Let's get back to his wife, shall we? It's amazing how these randos will call this woman a gold digger, but won't address his alleged behavior. Because whether or not these events happened in the manner in which they're being told, he's still a husband, he's a father. And if he were such an upstanding person, this story wouldn't be out there. As far as I'm concerned, there's no smoke without fire. But I digress. It's easy for a lot of people to put a woman on the chopping block and forgive a man for his indiscretions. In today's world, People think that having money is the gateway to living life free of consequence. You have people out here literally telling women how they need to compete for men because men are the prize. It's crazy. As far as I'm concerned, she married down. She's more educated than he is. Matter of fact, I couldn't find any proof online of him ever having attended high school or higher education. And I'll tell you why this matters. Being a famous actress in her home country, I'm sure she gets invited to a lot of prestigious events. Now, can you imagine the conversation in those settings? That's all I'm saying. Additionally, I'm not surprised at all by the childish move he made at hiding his finances. She should have done her homework, but unfortunately, a lot of women get caught up in the fantasy of happily ever after that they forget to properly vet these men. From what I've read, the soon-to-be ex-mother-in-law doesn't seem to have liked her at all. And that happens in most marriages. But what she should have paid attention to, extra attention to, was whether he had it in him to fight for her in certain situations or cower like a mama's boy, which is what most spineless men do. You can always tell how weak a man is by what he allows his mother to get away with in his marriage. There's a difference between respect and crossing boundaries, and some of these men are too weak to even identify that. He was never going to fight for her, and I'll tell you why. I found this post on Facebook, and it reads, Achraf Hakimi's tribute to his parents. Quote, "My mother cleaned the houses, and my father was a street vendor. We come from a modest family that has always struggled to earn a living. Today, I fight every day for them. They sacrificed themselves for me. They deprived my brothers of many things for me to succeed." End quote. It sounds to me that even though his parents struggled, whatever little they made was invested into his talent as a soccer player. I want people to understand that you don't require an education to be a soccer player. All you need is your talent and someone willing to bid on you and expose you to the right people in order to make it. They don't care that you've never finished high school. So, as far as education is concerned, she married down. What she should have been concerned about was how he was socialized. This is a man who grew up in poverty. And let me preface by saying there's nothing wrong with that. We cannot control the situations we're born into. However, the experiences we go through while growing up in those situations shape who we become as adults. Sometimes the outcomes are good, and sometimes they're not. So you have a couple of parents here who couldn't take care of their kids. All they saw was drive and ambition in one of them and decided to put all their eggs in one basket. It seems to me that Achraf Hakimi's parents used him as a retirement plan. They invested so much in him to the point where his siblings went without. And he knows this. He understands that while he went on to do what he loves, that investment from his parents isn't free. It was never free. Now, I don't know what kind of parents they are as far as guilt tripping him for what they did for him, but something tells me there's an unspoken understanding that he will continue to take care of them as long as they live. And his wife would have to understand that. If she has any issues with that, or in this case, if she had issues with that setup, he would then be put in a position to choose. It would have to be one or the other, but not both. This is the type of man that you need to be wary of because he would always choose his parents over you. The years of programming, the guilt and burden he carries for being the one that, quote unquote, caused his siblings to go without, turned him into his parents' insurance policy. This picture exhibits more than just happiness. He was never going to choose his wife over his mother, and here's why. After this whole kerfuffle went down, this is what his mother had to say. My son did not inform me of the transfer of his fortune. If he has taken any action to protect himself, I have no knowledge of it, she reportedly said. But what is the problem if it were true? If my son doesn't do that, he won't be able to get rid of that woman. I think from this last statement alone, we can somewhat tell what kind of relationship she had with her daughter-in-law. She'll be damned if any woman will just come in and take his son for all his worth. This is the mindset of such parents. This is why his wife, Hiba, is demanding $11 million from her soon-to-be ex-husband as divorce settlement. Achraf Hakimi allegedly offered her $2.2 million, according to the Spanish Daily Marca. You see, today's generation think that getting married means treating your wife with disrespect and having her just put up with anything. They think it's cool to use a woman's body to continue their legacy while treating her like shit. These dating apps have more men than they do women, and let me tell you why that is. Most women are tired of the stupid games and regressive attitudes of most men today. That is why they're opting out of relationships and marriage altogether. The battle between men and women when it comes to relationships has been going on forever, before any of us were born. All women seem to do is sacrifice themselves and risk their lives having children for and with useless men. Why must this continue? Despite being married to someone who earns or is quote unquote worth more than her financially, she found herself at a disadvantage because she didn't do as much homework as she should have on the man she was getting married to. Hiba Abouk married down because she got involved with someone who doesn't have a spine, someone who doesn't know how to separate and create boundaries between his wife and the rest of his family. What he did was wrong. It's not a flex, and it does indeed make him look like a mama's boy. That is why she's also suing him for fraud and mismanagement of their marital assets after she discovered that the footballer's entire fortune is under his mother's name. You know, having a lot of money while still exhibiting poor behavior and attitude does not make someone a high-value man. Your character, moral values, and how you treat others matters too. Hiba did eventually speak out in an interview regarding her soon-to-be ex-husband's allegations of digital rape, expressing shock and embarrassment while explaining the reason for her delayed response to the accusations. She took to her Instagram story to state that she'll always be on the side of the victims. And this is what she had to say. After having taken the decision to legally separate whilst awaiting the divorce procedure, which you can imagine on top of the pain brought about by the separation, as well as having to accept the sadness of that failed project, which I gave my body and soul brings, I was supposed to face up to this disgraceful act. I needed time to come to terms with this shock, she said in a statement as first reported and translated by the Spanish newspaper El País. One must trust the legal process, especially considering the gravity of the accusations. Nonetheless, In my life, I always have been and always will be on the side of the victim, she added. Listen, she obviously knows something about her soon-to-be ex-husband that outsiders don't. And that's all I gotta say about that. Anyway, we still have a lot to talk about, more ground to cover, and that is why I have split this video into 2 parts. We are not done with this topic of hypergamy. So, in the second part of this video, we'll be discussing the story of a young woman named Ella Freeman who refuses to split the bill on any date. She was slammed by critics who called her a money-hungry gold digger. She insisted, however, that men should reward the time and effort she puts in to look her best for them. We shall also talk about that controversial clip between Ebony K. Williams and Ms. Iyanla. We will be addressing that and more in part 2 of hypergamy. I'll see you in the next one and divest like a butterfly. Bye, diamonds.